Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to an episode of the Plant Code podcast. I'm Max, and today I'm in Nairobi, Kenya, joined by Janette,
Yes.
one of the vegans of Kenya. She has a blog and her website, which is called
Vegan Kenya.
Vegan Kenya. There will be a link down below. Do check that out. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Nice to have you in Nairobi. Welcome to Nairobi.
And I just took over your living room to set it up as a studio as well, so thank you for allowing that.
No problem. That's the African hospitality.
You guys are always so generous, and that is true every time I do come to Africa, even though I don't like to generalize.
Right. Thank you.
But I just did anyway. You guys are just so generous and so giving and just so hospitable with everything. So thank you to all of Africa.
Awesome.
Could have ended that day, really.
Bye. That's
Right,
it.
that's the end of the show. So let's take it back to the beginning, Janette. Why did you go vegan?
I don't want to be cliche and say for the animals, but that's not cliche. It's for the animals. I think once you identify that you're eating another soul, right? Another being. It's not chicken anymore. You see a live soul looking up at you. And it's all for taste memory. I can do that with tofu and just put the same seasonings that I liked. And I think that's what made me really decide to not bring death into my temple.
That is an interesting way, because most people do it for health more than animals, so it's not cliche.
Yeah, I guess.
So when was this?
I think I don't have like a date that I did it. I think I've always been in the space or in the openness of knowing that I didn't want to eat meat even when I ate meat. I think as far back as I can remember, what made me stop eating red meat in specific was I had an allergy when I was about 12. And in Kenya, like during December holidays, which is when everybody is off, you go to your grandmother's place and they slaughter a big cow or a big goat, depending on, socioeconomics. And I broke out, and I'd done it for 11 years prior, right? But that year I broke out into hives. And they found out that I was allergic to goat meat or lamb. They weren't sure because both were present. And so my mother told me not to eat any red meat. But it was just that those days when you visited people, you wouldn't ask them, oh, what kind of meat is in that dish?
Yeah.
If you go to an African person's home, you accept what is handed to you.
And you can't decline food.
Right. It's a gift.
Yeah.
That is how they share. That is how we share. And so she would just tell me, just eat the veg. And so I think as far back as I can remember, there was always something wrong with certain meats, but I didn't know about veganism then. To be honest, I didn't know about vegetarianism, even then. And then went to college, did the whole, I ate chicken, I ate fish, but I was never big, like I was never one of those people who said, oh, I'm never gonna go vegan. There's lots of
I said that many times.
I know, everybody I talk to.
I love to troll vegans. I was like biggest anti-vegan I knew, so.
No, my story is different, and nobody actually ever talked to me about veganism. I think over the years, I started to see my mother take too many pills for lifestyle diseases, and I started to read up, and I got so into nutrition. And so I started organic way before people talked about organic food, at least the age that I was and the times that it was.
When was this?
In the 90s.
Wait, how old are you? You look like you're 21.
I am 43.
What? Ladies and gentlemen, living proof that a vegan diet will keep you healthy. Or African genes.
I'm sure genetics have something to do with it.
I'm 27. I look 10 years older than you.
No, you don't. Oh, to be 27 again. I wish. I wish. There's so many things I wish I knew when I was younger. So even though I'm talking about this trajectory of my life, it was a slow trajectory. I think now we have so much information and people are like, watch this documentary, go to this site. These are the foods that you need to eat. And, that's why everybody now has a date that they remember. November 1st was the day I went. No, for me it was like I saw that because I lived abroad and they were talking about African Americans having high instances of high blood pressure because of eating too much pork.
Okay.
So I was like, pork, gone. because it's a big barbecue thing there, right? I was like, that's out. So that was about 2000, I want to say 2003, 2004.
Oh, wow, that's a good 16 years ago now.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I started, and I think that's why there's the trajectory. Then they started talking about, chicken is not good. And I was like, chicken? I love chicken.
I mean, chicken is a big part of African culture.
Right.
Especially fried chicken. It seems to be there's like a joke between Africans and fried chicken. Crazy.
Here they don't fry it. Here we have it, it's more rotisserie style.
Okay.
And like, okay, I don't want to say that. Anyway, there's something they call it here, and it's like porn chicken, kuku pono, because when it's in the rotisserie and they're just hanging there.
They call it
it's a slang. It's called it's Kenyan slang.
Okay.
Yeah. So that I think is what we don't do a lot of the breading. Breading is something that's come from the Western world.
Okay.
So for us, we cooked it in stews. We had the rotisserie type chicken, but chicken and black people. I mean.
Yeah. So obviously, you don't find many African vegans. At least it does seem like the vast majority at the moment are Europeans or Australians, North Americans.
Yep.
Do you know a lot of vegans in Kenya?
I don't know them personally, but since starting the page, many of them have followed me.
Okay.
Some people live a vegan lifestyle in their home, but they won't say it out loud. And I've met those people.
Right, okay.
Because there's a stigma around it.
Yeah.
There's a stigma around, back in the day, we only had meat maybe once a week, or, you'll hear those stories that meat was something prized.
Yeah.
So if you had it, you were like, oh my gosh, this is the day we're eating meat.
But that's even true in Europe, because meat was the last thing to no longer be rationed after the Second World War.
Right.
So then you had the generation of baby boomers. They were the ones that kind of grew up and meat wasn't rationed anymore. So you kind of want to go full on and have it every meal. And then that's become part of the way that we live 50 years later. But it was never like that.
That's exactly how it is now. Yeah. And so I've been to places like potlucks, and I'll bring my veg dish or whatever, and people will laugh and be like, what? With all the money that I have for me to eat rabbit food? I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But we grew up on this food and nobody called it rabbit food.
And yet people will tell you that veganism is expensive.
Exactly.
And rabbits don't have that much money to feed themselves. So
right?
If it's cheap for them, it should be cheap for us.
It's cheap for us.
Do a lot of people say that to you when you say that you're vegan?
It's quite I think it's the number one excuse, that it's expensive. And for me, I almost want to laugh in their face. I want to educate, but I'm like, come on. Like, meat is more expensive than rice, than beans, than, like, we have, one of our dishes here is ugali and sukuma wiki. Ugali is maize meal.
Okay. And
it's ground up, and we just cook it in water. And it's like a maize meal, like a corn cake type of thing. It's not cake. Just has water and salt. That's it.
That sounds like the worst cake I've ever.
It's like, I don't know if you've been to the States and they have grits.
No.
Or semolina.
Okay, yeah.
So it's like that, and you cook it until it's, it forms into a cake. I think that's what I mean. Okay. And you pinch it off. You should try it when you're here. You pinch it off. So it's bland on its own, and then you eat it with like collard greens. Okay. So collard greens are sukuma wiki, or kale, or spinach, whatever, a leafy green.
So that's healthy.
So that's healthy, and that is a meal that is had in every home. So my point is, it's cheap. That's an indigenous dish that is, as I said earlier when we were talking, inherently vegan. Chapati is a flatbread.
Yeah.
It's like roti.
It's an Indian bread originally, yeah.
Right. And so our chapati is different from Indians, even though we stole it from them. We didn't steal it, we were inspired by them.
Okay, I wouldn't say anything about that, because from the UK we've stolen a lot of things from the Indians,
right.
So I won't blame you for stealing a chapati.
Curries, right? So no, we were inspired by them, so ours has oil, and you don't have to make it. I think chapati is usually made with whole wheat, but we mostly use just regular wheat, like the white wheat. And it has a lot of oil, and it's flaky and really nice. So that we eat with green grams, or lentils as people call them.
Yeah.
Those are Kenyan dishes. Rice and beans.
Yeah, the staple of a whole, full plant-based diet is the cheapest thing you can possibly buy in a supermarket, on a market, in the street, wherever you buy it from.
Right.
So I don't know why people still use that excuse. And I don't know where it comes from, unless you're literally trying to feed yourself only on the Beyond Burger, for example.
And it's not even in Kenya, so I don't even know. Like most people, so in terms of, I'll speak for Kenyans, when they're in my DMs, they're talking about, oh, I wish I could do this, but it's just so expensive. The soy milks are expensive, blah, blah, blah. And it is true. A pack of soy milk here is about 500 shillings.
Okay.
Right?
It's
and
like
the regular is 90 shillings. The regular milk, right? And I don't like to say the regular because soy milk should be regular. The cow milk is 90 shillings for the same amount.
Yeah.
So you're telling somebody times 5. But what I say is you don't have to drink that soy milk. That is not a mainstay of veganism. At least the diet.
Yeah.
Start with the food. Nobody said, even regular omnis, there are people who don't drink milk. So don't give me that excuse.
That's the thing. As soon as you offer something or you suggest something, people put the boundaries up straight away, don't they? They don't look at how they can do it or in what way they can do it.
Exactly.
They look at what they can't do.
Right.
But even if you look at, let's say, cow's milk, and you look at plant-based milk, it's not even the same product.
Right.
Like, you don't have to use it in the same way.
Right.
In Dubai, in the UK as well, it is similar. It's 5 times more expensive because the dairy industry is subsidized by the state. But if you remove the money aspect and you look at the health perspective,
right,
you look at the
you
impact.
You will be paying for it later.
You will pay, and you'll shorten your life as well. I mean, can you put a price on health, really?
And I mean, we have a huge health epidemic in Kenya. Every other funeral, and I go to a lot of funerals, which is so sad, but every other funeral is somebody has died from either a lifestyle disease or cancer.
Wow.
People are not dying of old age or, accidents as much as it actually has become normalized. In fact, a couple of months ago, the government said about 63 members of parliament have cancer. Ridiculous. And WHO tells us meat is what? Class 1 carcinogen.
Yeah.
And here we are with our nyama choma every weekend. I mean, that's the Kenyan lifestyle. Beer and nyama choma.
I'm down for the beer, but what's nyama choma?
Nyama choma is barbecue meat.
Ah, okay. Yeah, no,
and that's probably what the Uber driver was telling you.
No, I actually think it was umali.
Ugali.
Ugali, yeah, sorry. I think that's what he mentioned.
And if you're a runner, all Western runners are like Ellie just crashed that record.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh my gosh, we must eat ugali if we need to get our PRs. But anyway, yeah.
But that's crazy when you look at it. I mean, that amount of heart disease, that amount of...
It's crazy.
Lifestyle sicknesses, and yet no one's focusing on the main causes of it.
Yep.
10 of the 13 leading causes of death in Western society are food related.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it seems like here it's exactly the same and it's the same problems. But no one wants to focus on that.
Right.
Why do you think that is?
I think Kenya, there's tradition. As I was talking about, there's a tradition. And I won't say Kenya only, it's an African thing. We've had traditions passed down with food where there was a lack of food. And now that people are able to buy certain things, they think about, I now have the means to buy maybe these things that I saw other, richer kids eating growing up and whatnot. And now like our middle class is pretty huge. I think everyone in the world, middle class is like...
Yeah, it's definitely growing.
Yeah, it's a huge chunk of people. So I think for me, I would say that's where it is that people think, oh my gosh, I now have the means to do it. And they gorge themselves.
I mean, it is tough, isn't it? When you've been raised in a certain way and you aspire to a certain life, and then once you can afford it and you get there, all of a sudden people are like, well, you shouldn't be doing that.
Right.
So you're kind of taking away that, I don't know if it's the American dream or whatever lifestyle dream it is that we
I think it's the American dream, yeah. Like kids here are highly influenced with the Western world, especially America. Because we watch their shows, everybody wants to, like cheese, for instance. I don't ever remember growing up and hearing cheese. And now everybody just wants to gorge on cheese.
And it's on everything. They put it everywhere.
Yeah, I know.
You can get anything with cheese on it.
Right.
And it's interesting that you mentioned about the cultural aspects, because I was talking about that with the Uber driver on the way, because I saw an advertisement sign and it said Dubai style homes.
Oh, I know exactly which one that is. Like, what is a Dubai style home?
And I was like, what's wrong with Kenyan style homes? And he was talking about not taking ownership of your culture, and then we were talking about how certain, so let's say you brand a machine and say it's German made. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a lot more popular than, say, the same machine that's Chinese made.
Yeah.
Maybe in the past there was a difference in culture, or different in quality, sorry. But I think it's important to own up to your culture, and you can, instead of trying to emulate other cultures and be like them.
And you know, there's something to be said about inspiration. We can be inspired by other cultures. Because if, let's say, people have done things before us, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? But I think here also with foods, there's so many foods that are American this and American that. And for me, it's funny because I lived there for 15 years, and the foods that they have brought, so this is supermarket stuff, right? And it'll say some, I don't want to mention the name, but it'll say something. And that was the food that when we were in college, and there was the little supermarket, almost a dollar supermarket, that's the stuff they're bringing here and selling it outrageously. Yeah. But because people don't know the different brands, like Kraft, everybody knows Kraft and whatever level Kraft is. But they're just importing like substandard stuff, but because it has the word America in it, suddenly everyone wants to eat that. Yeah.
And I found it very interesting about the Dubai homes is because Dubai has literally taken from every other culture what they like and put that together. And they've done it very well.
Yes.
But ultimately that's not an identity. So to then take that identity and try and bring that to Kenya, it just becomes a whole nothingness into nothing, really.
I think you'll find that in a lot of countries. Like sometimes we say that Kenyans, even though we gained our independence, we are still colonized. And that's part of, even though Dubai didn't colonize anyone because they're a young country, but that's the mentality that we still have, that something from another country, another part of the world is better than what we have here. So for instance, in the coast, there's the Swahili culture, which was has like Portuguese influence and whatnot. They have very nice homes. Why don't we sell homes saying the Swahili style home? Yeah. Now don't get me wrong, there's some people who do that, but especially in a big city like Nairobi, no, you're not going to see that. You're going to see Italian kitchens. They love that.
Yeah, that's everywhere. Everyone loves an Italian. I don't even know what is an Italian kitchen.
I don't know. Mine's not an Italian kitchen. I don't know what mine is.
Yeah. Unless it's got a pizza oven in it. I don't see what is in it.
Thank you. Yeah. Right?
I wouldn't mind having a pizza oven, actually.
Yeah, I know. But it had to be wood-fired and outside somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Actually, you were telling me about your baking skills.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And how you don't like to call your cakes vegan cakes. Why does that bother you?
It bothers me because people have a taste of vegan, right? Of what vegan is supposed to taste like. Never mind, it could be a person who's never had a vegan cake. But the connotation of a vegan food, even when you say, like stir fry, for instance, I wouldn't, if I tell someone, oh, here's a stir fry, and somebody will say, oh yeah, she's vegan. They start looking at that stir fry like it has
it's like herpes
some alien stuff in it, and it's like carrots and whatnot. So for me, I actually started my business before I went vegan, and then had an existential crisis, touching eggs and whatnot. In about 2 years, I would literally almost be in tears making cake. Okay. And cake brings me so much joy.
And you were still making...
And I was still making...
normal cakes.
Right. Whatever normal is, right? I think we need to call them cruelty cakes.
That's true, actually. If we reverse that...
Right.
Reverse engineer it to what it actually is, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But even if you take, let's say, an Oreo. An Oreo is vegan.
Right.
Accidentally, I don't think they really care. And you give it to them like, here's a biscuit for you. They'll eat it happily. If you give it to them like, here's a vegan biscuit, they're going to start studying it, like you say. I'll be like, oh yeah, I can taste that it's vegan. It tastes weird.
That is what annoys me so much. Because I'll tell you what, so the 2 years that I had the existential crisis, and I, because I knew for sure my revenue was gonna dip. I mean, that's just something you know. But at a certain point, I stopped loving to bake, and that's what I love baking. I love creating. I love testing recipes and whatnot. And I would go into my kitchen like with such negative like thoughts, and that's just not the person that I am. And so for my friends, I would tell them, hey, when you order something, I'll be testing out something. And they're just like, okay, fine. But I wouldn't say that I'm testing out, because at a certain point, I knew that I was going to transition my business. And of course, I had to start testing those recipes. I was already eating vegan, but my taste, my palate is not the same as everyone else's, right?
Of course, yeah.
So anytime my friends or my family would order something, I would actually make it vegan, but not tell them. And I would call them after and I would say, hey, so taste anything different? And they're like, no. Like, none of them. But the moment that you said something was vegan, they were, oh, yeah. It's like they're trying.
There was a little something in the, the taste was.
Right.
Yeah, I felt that.
And you're just like, come on, there's nothing. So it's a mental thing that people have to get. And that's why I hate calling things vegan something. Because at some point, if you know somebody's vegan and they set a food or plate in front of you, it's inherently vegan, right?
Yeah. People do think that that veganism is a trend, that it's a fad diet, it's a cool thing, like flash mobs or or yo-yos.
Okay, but here I think it's definitely there's a group of vegans in Kenya, and I don't want to call them vegan yet, but who aspire to be vegan only because it's the in thing to do. It makes you seem woke. I hate that word as well, right? Celebrities are doing it, and so they aspire to be in the same wavelength as celebrities. I mean, the Western influence here is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's great that all these celebrities are going vegan.
Right.
But it's kind of a double-edged sword, because I'm worried they're not going to do it right. And then one day they're going to go public and be like, yeah, I went vegan, I felt sick. And then if they do that, the impact is going to be awful for veganism. Mm-hmm. Because if you do it right, you're going to thrive on it. You're going to be healthy. You're going to feel a lot better, have more energy. But if you do it wrong, like I usually do it wrong because I'm just like unhealthy.
Are you a junk food
I'm
vegan?
such a junk food vegan. But I'm surviving,
Right.
But I'm not in it for health. Like I do it for ethical reasons, for the animals and for the environment. For me, that's why I do it. And I think that's why people stay vegan.
Yes.
If you do it for those reasons like you did, for the animals.
If you know the why.
Yeah. I always say people go vegan for health, but they'll stay vegan for the environment and for animals.
Right. I think most people do that, right?
Yeah.
They hear about, oh my gosh, so-and-so lost. I get that in my DMs all the time. Will I lose 20? I'm trying to lose 20 pounds. Will I lose 20? And I'm like, I don't want to answer that, because that means then it's a diet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And for me, for instance, if I say I'm vegan, because I feel like people want to be plant-based.
Yeah.
Right? And the difference is plant-based is the diet, right? Veganism is the lifestyle that includes diet. So for instance, am I wearing anything with leather? No. Did I ever wear leather? Yes. But what happened? I gave those things away to somebody. I didn't trash them because the animal already died for that. So it doesn't make sense to trash it. And I'm a little bit of a minimalist in that if you're done using something and it's still good, that somebody else can get use out of it. So I gave away all my wool. I only had 2 wool coats.
Only 2?
Yeah.
I've got 7. No, I'm just kidding.
In Dubai? Really?
No, I've never owned a wool coat, to be honest. But,
I did. I mean, it's because I
why do you have wool coats here?
No, because I lived abroad.
Oh, okay, yeah, of course you're in the US. I was going to say, I can imagine anyone walking around Nairobi in a wool coat.
Oh, you will see a lot. This weather right now is cold. Yeah. People are like, this is cuddle weather. And I'm like, really?
I mean, I'm always up for cuddling, but...
Right. Any weather is cuddling weather, right?
Exactly.
No, but people here get cold. You'll see proper wool jackets, very cute ones, out on the street. And boots and stuff.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's only, 70 degrees. But whatever.
Well, it's a whole different, I don't know, vibe for the weather, isn't it, really? I mean, I'm used to cold, rain. Right. Well, it was raining yesterday when I got here anyway, so...
Yeah, it's been raining off and on. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So how do you deal with your family?
Mm.
Because that's often one that comes up. People say, I would love to go vegan, but my family would kill me, you know. Or they would disown me because, I mean, that's just
Right.
crazy.
And I hear those stories, and
Yeah.
I am very sad for people because, especially people who still live at home. I feel like maybe a teenager still living at home and depending on mom or dad to cook. I mean, I'm sorry for them, right? But vegetables, like, I don't even understand people who say they would be disowned. What type of people would disown you for eating a carrot? I mean, because it is that simple. Why do people try? You know
It's
what
true.
I mean?
Yeah, it is true.
That is,
Yeah.
it's absolute madness.
I mean, parents, they spend your whole childhood trying to encourage you to eat your vegetables.
Right.
And then one day you're like, okay, I'm going to go vegan. And then they freak out completely.
And they become nutritionists.
Yeah, everyone's
Right.
a nutritionist.
That story is so old.
Yeah.
So for me, I mean, of course, I don't live at home. And even if I did, I think I've always been a rebel. I'm the rebel in the family, and I wear that proudly.
Yeah.
So they just be like, oh, it's her. So it's her thing. I don't know. They're just, I think when I first did it, they were like, oh, so you're not going to eat anything at all? And I'm like, no. Aren't you going to miss it? And I was like, no. Because once you make the connection
Yeah.
that what you're eating on your plate was something that was alive and now it's dead. In fact, I call meat carcass. So if we're at my mom's or my sister's or my friends, I'll be like, oh, that's the carcass that you're having. I don't mince my words.
Ooh.
I do not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do they say to that? How do they respond?
I think because I've been a rebel so long, they're
Yeah.
so used to it. They're just like, whatever.
Yeah.
So in my family, I think it's different from other families that give them angst or whatever. And I think because I've always been a different child, even when I was a child, I was just a different. I've always been curious about the world. I read a lot, and so I knew things, I guess, before my age. So they've always dealt with this person who asked questions, who was always. I don't know. I was expelled twice from school.
What?
I know.
What did you do?
I did.
Can you tell us, or is it?
No, I was one of the leaders of a strike because I was fighting for drama. Oh my god.
You were fighting for drama?
Drama school.
Ah, okay.
Drama club.
I thought you just wanted more drama.
No. I'm not even a drama-filled person. But
Okay.
I was in drama club, and we had to practice for blah blah. It's so stupid, but the day of the competition, after months and months of practicing, our principal decides that we're not going to go compete. And drama takes over your life. Like when you're in high school, if you're in drama, you almost cannot be in another club because it just takes up so much of your life. And I was like, what? No, let's go to the school. And I mean, it was a boarding school, so
Yeah.
we're like, the van that was supposed to take us to the event or whatever, and we were like, it was a bunch of us, and we were like, let's all link hands, like as if we're fighting for civil rights.
That's good. It is.
And then we got expelled.
All of you.
Yeah, and anyone who, there were some people who were like, oh man, that sucks, let me go back to class, or let me go back to the dorms or whatever, and the rest of us were like, no, we're not letting the van pass, blah, blah, blah. And our principal was smart. She told somebody to come say, oh, fine, we'll take you. So all of you get into the van. So all stupid 20 of us got into the van, and then it drove right to the principal's office.
Oh. Oh, that's sneaky.
And we were expelled. Yeah.
Wow.
And then the second time that I was expelled was I was fighting because we used to have this thing called holiday tuition. So you go to school, and when you're supposed to be holidaying, they tell you to go back to school.
Okay.
So it was like not remedial classes, because that means like you're not that smart, but it was just extra.
Right.
But your parents had to pay for it. And usually parents wanted the break, because that's really what a school break is, right? They don't want to have to pay. They have to. You're already paying for 3 terms or 3 semesters, right? And then the teachers didn't come. And so we were just in school. Our parents have paid, and they didn't come. And they didn't come because they weren't paid.
Ah.
And I was like, after 2 weeks, I was like, this is crazy, because that was another boarding school. And I was like, I'm going home.
So you got expelled from not attending a school where you didn't have teachers?
Yep.
That makes perfect sense.
I know.
Is there any of that kind of like activism, like blocking the streets with animal rights activism in Kenya, or is that...
Okay, I have not seen a lot of it, but I know a couple years...
Is there like an Anonymous for the Voiceless chapter here, or...?
I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
There's Vegan Outreach Africa now.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, in fact, it's a new chapter that just started. I wish you had more time, then you would meet Priya. She's the country manager.
Oh.
But they're just setting it up now.
Oh, next time.
And I only
sure.
know it because she contacted me, and I was like, what? Vegan Outreach is here? I mean, that means something.
That's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, I think street activism is one of the most valuable forms of activism.
Right.
A lot of people don't like seeing slaughterhouse footage, and there are a lot of different ways of doing it, but I do believe that making that human connection with people face to face and having a calm conversation, which you can have, I think it's one of the most effective ways to help people make that connection and consider changing the way that they live and moving towards veganism.
Right.
I believe it's so much more effective than, I don't know, maybe posting a photo or slaughterhouse footage directly. You know, when you can actually take it on board and talk to them and understand. 'Cause it's about listening.
Right.
About listening to people's opinions. I think that's where you can then understand where they're coming from and make a little bit of a change.
I've wanted to do a cube here, but I'm scared.
Yeah.
Honest, if I'm going to be honest, protests in this country are not taken very well, and I guess the history of protests here have been very violent, so they don't understand that you could even have a silent protest.
It's a peaceful demonstration.
Right. Even peaceful demonstrations here, like I attended one for it was called My Dress, My Choice for women, so that if you wear a crop cut, whatever, that doesn't mean that some man should grab you, which it was happening, right? And I guess that happens everywhere, but it seems like it was happening. Or people will judge you based on what you're dressed. And while we were walking, we could hear people say, "Oh, I thought these guys were going to demonstrate naked, and they're wearing clothes." We were ready to see like titties out, and it was crazy. And then we went to a certain place, and they just started almost wanting to mob us. But there were guys also, and they just safely directed us somewhere else. And that was a peaceful protest.
Yeah.
But so many times people here are protesting, against the government for whatever, and it's peaceful, but it turns out they drop tear gas. People are shot. So it's just like, if I had to do it maybe on my own, I would do it. But if I organize it, I would kind of feel that I have these souls that I have to protect.
Of course.
You know what I mean? It does need to happen. And honestly, like, I follow the vegan couple.
Yeah.
And I'm just enamored how calm they are, right? And I would want to emulate that type of thing. I think I'm very volatile, and I will end up like fighting. So I need to work on that within myself before I can organize people. But I think that would really be nice, because you're not, especially like Anonymous, you're not talking, you're letting you're holding the thing. There are people who should talk, but I think if we ever did that here, I would want us to first just do a cube.
Without the outreaches, just the footage. Okay. Yeah.
And just have it to be normal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
So that they can see that this is something that won't get out of hand. Because I think that's where the violence comes in. Yeah. And
I think there is a time and a place for the angry activism as well.
Right.
There is a time and a place for it, but I always try to stay as calm as I can when I'm talking to someone, even if I know they're literally just trying to make fun of me or just trying to push my buttons. But I realize that we're the only representatives that the animals have.
Right.
And we may be the first vegan they ever talk to.
Mm-hmm.
So I always try and show a part of a rational person, someone who is relatable, that you can talk to.
Right.
You can have a laugh with, not someone who's just going to literally like lose his shit within 5 seconds of the conversation as soon as something like flicks the switch.
Right.
Which most of the time it does.
It does.
Yeah.
I know. Even for me, when I'm very good with one-on-ones, and I think my activism, almost every function that I go to is an activism, right? It's almost like an activism activation, right?
This is activism.
Exactly. So normally, like if I go for a function, I'll say like a wedding. I'll either eat before I go to the wedding, not because they won't have like rice or whatever, but I don't do the whole contamination of spoons. And in places like weddings, there's nothing you can control. So either I'll eat before or I'll eat after, or if I have to, maybe if I'm helping out, if I'm an usher and whatnot, I'll bring my own food, which I've done that for. I even take food to my mom's house and she'll make for me veggies. But if I want to eat what I want to eat, I'll take food wherever. And so that is always a conversation of, what's that? And they always think it's my religion. It's like, oh, what religion are you? Like, religion?
Cruelty-free, is that religion?
Yeah. Ooh, I like that. Yeah. So I think there's always space for that. And I'm very rational then. But I think if I did the cube, I would need all kinds of deities to come in.
Yeah.
Calm me down. Just because I know how volatile even our police can be, and I hate to, give a blanket statement, but we've been here, we've seen the stories and whatnot. I would just like, even because like here you have to get a permit to have a demonstration. Okay. Right? So the permit office will give you the permit and they know exactly what it entails. And sometimes the police still throw tear gas, even if you have a permit.
But don't you think that maybe in a place like Kenya, if you start doing animal rights activism, people will be like, there are bigger problems?
That too.
Do you get that?
Yeah.
Because you get that everywhere. Every time you start talking about animal rights, you start talking... It's not just about animal rights, is it? There's so much more to it.
Right.
But do you get that a lot?
That, especially, in a developing country, of course. Like, people will say, oh, you think the animals can hear you? Why don't you, because, like, for instance, we still have power rationing. So there are areas that once every week, you have no power from 9 to 5, right? There are places with no water. You could even have apartments like this that you have to buy water. You'll see, I don't know if you, on your way here, you saw like a Bowser and it'll say clean water blue.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people buy water, so people will be like, oh, so why don't you do activism for water? Why don't you do for basic... there's a lot of things we can fight for in this country before fighting for animal rights.
But I find the only people that say those kind of things are the people that are doing nothing.
Right. Keyboard ninjas.
Exactly. But how I try to answer that question and the conclusion I've kind of come to is like, okay, there are so many problems in this world.
Yes.
I can't solve all of them.
Right.
But animal agriculture is one that I can stop contributing towards.
Correct.
I don't directly contribute towards, I don't know, the people taking children from the mothers and or child abuse. I don't directly contribute to that. But I was directly contributing to animal agriculture, to the killing of animals, to the destruction of our planet. So I say, like, before I start trying to solve other problems, let me stop contributing to the ones that I'm contributing to right now.
Correct. And that there's direct, like, our money speaks.
Exactly.
Right.
And people think, what difference can you make? You're one person.
One person it has to start from one person. Any revolution, anything great that has happened started with one person.
Absolutely. And
one person who believed that they were enough, that they could do something. And I think that's where it needs to end, that one person can. Yeah. If you say one person cannot do anything, that's defeatist. And nothing in this world will ever get done. If you say, oh, it's just so little me and there's nothing I can do, then okay, be in your corner and sulk. But the rest of us, we'll try to do something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what inspired you to start your website and your blog?
So I think, like you, people were asking you all kinds of questions. So for me, I think a lot of people would, and this started from my baking, so people would say, oh, so what are you using instead of eggs? Oh, what are you using instead of milk? What are you using? And I would, like on social media, I did Snapchat when it first started.
Oh,
I was so big into Snapchat.
I've never tried that.
I was, and now I haven't been in, I think, 2 or 3 years, maybe 2 years.
What do you use now?
Now I think I'm on Instagram. Yeah.
That's at Vegan Kenya.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, at Vegan Kenya. So I think I would show a lot of what I wasn't even thinking it was activism then. People are just interested in what people eat. I think that's a worldwide phenomenon, right?
People love food.
Yeah, we all love food. So I would just, when I'm baking something, I'm like, oh, watch me drizzle this chocolate or whatever. Oh, here's what I'm having for lunch. Here's a smoothie. This is how you make it. And people would just be fascinated. And for me, it was normal. And they would ask me, slide in my DMs, where do you get this? Something I, in my head, think that is everywhere. And like my husband would keep telling me, don't get tired of answering those questions, because maybe this is the first time like somebody has seen soy milk or even heard of soy milk. So you've had it, you drank it for 20 years or whatever. This is the first time they're hearing it. And to know that they can maybe make that same latte in a matter of hours because you'll tell them, oh, just go down to the store and that's where you'll find it. And that's how, or people would ask me, where did you get this? Because I do travel quite a bit, and I'll bring back things from other countries that are vegan that we don't have here. And people would say, oh, I wish that item was here.
Yeah.
I wish that was here. I wish that was here. Because I found that I was doing a lot more vegan foods, like I love going to supermarkets. When I go to different countries, that's where I go, to the supermarket, because I want to see like what do people in that country buy, right?
Yeah.
I think if you're into food, and especially for me who was into baking as well, I'm always trying to find little things that I can add to my cookies or cakes and whatnot. So I've always loved. I don't go to the malls when I travel. I go to the markets. So open air markets, because I love spices. I have like over 100 spices. Yeah.
I couldn't even name 100 spices.
I know. I'll go somewhere and ask, what is the spice you use in this country? And they'll be like, oh, and I'll go and buy it. And then come and learn how to
You should do like travel vlogs of spice markets. I'm sure that'd be hilarious.
Oh, I would love that.
You'd be so good at that.
Especially with language challenge, because sometimes they say something and then I'm like, oh, what the hell did I buy?
Turns out it's just sand.
I know.
All right, so I was looking at your website and I was looking at the things that you do sell.
Yeah.
And there are two items that I always confuse, okay?
Okay.
What is the difference between Maca and Matcha?
Maca is an adaptogen. Adaptogen, so it's a powder, it's a tuber, right? That the Aztecs and the Mayans took to give them virility, or so we're told, right? So maca is an adaptogen, so which means adaptogens fix anything that is out of balance. So it's something like a multivitamin that you can have. Matcha, M-A-T-C-H-A, is Japanese. It's the green tea powder, but from the young leaves that are shaded. So it's of higher quality. It's very grassy.
I hate it.
I love it.
They make ice cream from it. I'm like, why would you do that?
Ice cream, cake, cookies, everything. No, I don't even put it in my recipes. I straight drink it.
Ooh.
I love it. I don't, and you either like it or you hate it. It has a very vegetal.
I find it so powdery.
Yeah. But maybe you're also drinking sencha, because there's different levels of the matcha. So if you're finding something that you can taste the grain, it's not a high quality matcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sencha is a lower quality.
And also another thing I tried recently, like one of these powders, was Baobab.
Oh, that's big here. In fact, we have a childhood snack called mabuyu, which is the pod with the powder. It's very high in vitamin C. And we just used to suck it. They would put it in like a red food coloring, and you just suck it. But you can't eat the seed.
Yeah.
There's a huge seed, but it's very high in vitamin C. And to add it to liquids and whatnot, kind of is like a very lovely lemony taste.
Well, when I had it, there's nothing lovely or lemony about it.
What?
I don't know. I need to work on these powders.
You need to I think sometimes also when things are bought where they're not made or found, maybe they're adulterated with other things.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a very fluid, it's a straight tasting, like if you even just taste the powder, it's a little astringent.
Yeah, maybe I should focus less on the vegan burgers, vegan pizzas, and more on the...
Those are good too. I had Freedom. I think called Freedom. Yeah.
You have Freedom?
Not here.
Oh, you had it in Dubai. Okay, yeah.
And you know who told me there's a vegan writer called Chantal. She lives in Oman. And she visited, when she was visiting Kenya, she said, hey, I'm coming to Kenya to write about veganism in Kenya. Where should I, which restaurant should I go? So she found me, I guess, the way you found me. How did you find me?
Hashtag vegans of Kenya.
Oh, awesome.
So that's how I find people usually. I use the hashtag and then for the city or the country.
Yeah.
And then I look for people. Or it might have been vegans of Nairobi or something like that. And then, because there were a few that I found, and then I was kind of just looking through, and then you seemed relatively interesting. And you turned out amazing.
You. I hope so.
Yeah, it's been so much fun talking to me. So much fun talking to you.
Maybe you like your own company, Max.
I do talk to myself way too much.
As do I.
Anyway, before we wrap this up.
Yeah.
If you could say one thing to the world about Kenya, about veganism in Kenya, what would you say?
That we're getting there. That what we need to concentrate on is to go back to our roots. Because I think veganism is going back to our roots. When somebody's confused about veganism and Africa, and all I tell them is, remember how our grandmothers ate, right? They didn't eat something out of a box, like cereal. Never mind, I like cereal, but they went to their garden, they picked the crop, and they cooked it. Now, it doesn't have to be that rudimentary, right? But I think if you start that, I think Africa should be the vegan continent. If we all the African countries just went back to our indigenous selves, because as I said earlier, our indigenous food is inherently vegan. We eat a lot of yams, potatoes, rice, so many types of tubers, sweet potatoes, all the types of greens you can think of. Like almost every plant that has a leaf that the Western world might throw out, we eat that leaf. And our grandmothers lived to be over 100. Why is it that we're dying now? Like the funeral I'm going for today, guys, like not 70. But 65 seems to be the age that people are just like, ooh.
And yet we say quality of life has improved.
But lifestyle diseases are getting higher. I want to be 100, but I don't want to be 100 and sick. I want to be when we thought about Africans before, that they were running wild or whatever primitive thing. But guess what? There were no diseases. They were strong. I want to go out fighting. I don't want to be taking high blood pressure medication, diabetes, and all that stuff, which is what everyone now. If you're over 50 or getting to 50, everyone's already on those meds.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, I am not on any meds.
And that's normal now, isn't it? It's just totally normal to be popping pills every morning, every night. And you've got no idea what this is.
Right.
And, okay, I'm sure there's at least one Kenyan watching this.
Yes.
Until the end. Thank you for tuning in all the way through this episode.
Yeah.
And they're not quite vegan yet, but they're really thinking about it. What would you say to that person?
You're almost there. Think about the animals. We've grown up without eating the loads of meat that we're eating now, and we were strong. We were active. There were hardly any rates of obesity when we were growing up. We can get back to that. Even if you just start on the diet today and then come and learn about the animals later, let's try that. For your health, your children's health, they're watching what you eat. They're watching, when you're popping your pills. Don't normalize popping pills. So just start. And if you have problems, DM me.
DM Janette at Vegan Kenya.
Yes.
I'll put links to all of that down below.
Yeah.
Janette, it was amazing talking to you today.
Likewise.
Thanks for having me in your home as well.
Thank you for visiting.
And I'll be back, and we'll have to do another episode sometime.
We do, and we need to go eat out.
Yes,
I need to introduce you to all the little vegan hotspots.
We will definitely make a whole travel vlog of that next time I'm here. It'll be so much fun.
Awesome.
Guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Plant Code Podcast. Tune in next week. No idea where I'll be. No idea who I'll be with. But I'm sure it'll be great. Have a great day, guys. Kwaheri akwanana. Was that good? Kwaheri yakwanana. Sawa boss. No idea what that means.
I'm saying. Okay,
fine. I just repeat everything you say.
Fast food, yo, it's burgers and fries, and it used to hurt the earth and the birds in the sky, but now they making it with plants, and it's so much better, cause the animals are safe, no more changes in the weather. We better act fast, cause the ice barely freezing, the world's changing quick, so welcome to Planet Vegan. Woo! Damn, man, can you feel that? This place is getting hot. If we wanna save the world, it'll take some work. If you wanna make it better, then take off your shirt, wave it round your head, and jump into the streets. The revolution starts now, can you feel its heartbeat? If we wanna save the world, man, we better be quick, cause we're killing all the piggies and the cows and the chicks. And I gotta be honest, I ain't a fan of our fate, but we can make a change now, and it starts on our plates. All around the world, it's a brand new dance. What you're making out of bodies, yeah, we're making out of plants. We gotta save the pigs and the fishes in the sea, so hold on to your pants, Planet Vegan soon to be. There's a change up in the system, I can feel it in the air, but it benefits us all, there's no need to be scared. We're gonna change the world and we'll do it in a day, so don't fight the future, Planet Vegan's here to stay. If we wanna save the world, it'll take some work. If you wanna make it better, then take off your shirt, wave it round your head, and jump into the streets. The revolution starts now, can you feel its heartbeat? If we wanna save the world, man, we better be quick, cause we're killing all the piggies and the cows and the chicks. And I gotta be honest, I ain't a fan of our fate, but we can make a change now, and it starts on our plates.
Massive forest fires have once again decimated the Californian coastline.
Iceland just held a funeral for the first glacier ever lost in the country's history due to warming weather patterns.
Europe was just hit with the hottest temperatures in recorded history.
Thousands of people are already dying every year from climate change related issues, and this number is expected to rise exponentially over the coming decades.
Okay, this apocalyptic nightmare is about to be real. Forest fires, oceans flooding, let it fill you with fear. A billion refugees running across the borders in pain, and they're drowning while you're saying you're refusing to change. Slaughterhouses filled with bodies and they're letting out screams, but you're saying it's a lie, that it's only a dream. Let me tell you something, man, the nightmare is real, and you're paying for it daily with your supersized meal.